Hi, I'm Willie Galloway, eHow's garden expert, and here are my tips for growing a beautiful organic garden. Gardening doesn't have to be a ton of work, especially if you use mulch. Mulch is a huge garden time saver because it prevents weeds, reduces the amount that you have to water, adds organic matter to the soil, moderates soil temperatures, and it makes your garden look tidy. Here's what you'll need if you want to mulch your garden. There's several different types of mulch available. Grass clippings work great for vegetable beds because they break down quickly. Leaves are also a nice option. They're better for ornamental beds because they take a little bit longer time to break down. And also, typically, you have trees and shrubs in ornamental beds, so you can just leave the leaves where they fall. Arborist chips are wood chips, and they have not only bark but also the interior section of wood, and they're a great option for pathways and ornamental beds because they take a really long time to break down, and the best part about this type of mulch is it's often free. Another great option is bark mulch. It has a finer texture, so it looks really nice and neat, and it's especially great for use in ornamental beds. When you're mulching, it's also helpful to have a bow rake on hand. It makes spreading the mulch a lot easier. You're also going to want to use a weeder before you mulch. You're going to want to pull out those weeds, and you'll need a hose because you're going to want to water before you lay down mulch. Step 1. I'm going to be mulching around this ornamental rhododendron, which is in a larger ornamental bed. And so the first thing you're going to want to do is remove any weeds that are in the area that you want to mulch. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this grass that is around here. I'm going to leave the little fern because he's a volunteer and it's always nice to have ferns. But I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these weeds out. And my weeder just helps dig down through the soil and makes it easier for me to pull the weeds out. Step 2. Mulch helps soil stay moist, but if you apply mulch to dry soil, it can actually prevent water from soaking into the ground. That's why it's very important that you water prior to mulching. What you're going to want to do is take your hose and turn on a gentle, slow stream of water. And then you're just going to water the whole area where you're going to mulch. And because you want the water to soak in 6 or 8 inches into the ground, you're going to have to water for quite a long time period. So what I'm going to do is just lay the hose down here and come back in about 10 minutes. Step 3. Once you've saturated your soil, it's time to mulch. Now, as I mentioned, it can take 10, 20, 30 minutes, even longer to saturate your soil down 6 to 8 inches, depending on how dry your soil was and what type of soil you have. So make sure that your soil is nice and wet before you proceed to this step, which is spreading the mulch. You're going to want to spread the mulch so that it's about 2 to 4 inches thick around the whole area that you're interested in mulching. And you can use your hands, or to speed things up, you can also use a bow rake. Just spread it around. Step 4. A lot of times you'll see bark mulch piled up around trees and the base of plants. This is exactly what you don't want to do. When it's piled up like a volcano, it can slowly kill the plant by rotting the bark. Same thing if it was mounted around a vegetable or a perennial, it'll slowly smother and kill the plant. So what you want to do when you're mulching is think donut, not volcano. So you're going to pull mulch away from the base of the trunks of trees, perennials, shrubs, vegetables, anything that you're growing, because you don't want it piled right up there against the branches. It's going to cause you problems down the road. The great thing about mulch is over time it starts to break down and return organic matter to your soil. That also means, though, that it needs to be replaced from time to time. Around this rhododendron, you can see it was mulched 2 or 3 years ago, and now the mulch is beginning to disappear and it's time to replenish it. Woody mulches like wood chips and bark typically last 2 to 3 years. If you live in a rainier climate, it might be a little less time, and if you live in a drier climate, you might get a little bit longer run out of your mulch. Leaves and pine needles last about a year, and so you'll need to replace those every year. And if you're mulching in a vegetable garden, grass clippings and straw typically break down pretty quickly, so you may need to replace that mulch 2 or 3 times a growing season. Remember, when you're replenishing the mulch, you're only going to want to put about 2 to 4 inches down. Any more and you're not going to get any added benefit. So that's what you need to do when you're mulching.